ao segundo orador, que professor Paul Hahnenkamp. Professor Paul Hahnenkamp vem da Universidade de Viena, do Departamento de História Constitucional e é membro do grupo de História de Direito Internacional. I'll be glad to hear you.
Hello. Yeah. Good afternoon. I'm also very pleased to be invited and to talk about mitos, fundadores, na Iconography dos Direitos Humanos. I'm also very thankful for the translation, that I don't have to speak in Portuguese today, because then it would be a total mess. So I'm talking about the founding myths in human rights iconography. I think we heard today already a lot about different approaches, how to deconstruct some aspects of human rights history. I will also try to deliver a historical perspective. I analyzed sources, I analyzed pictorial sources, so you can say images, and want to tell also a story about human rights and maybe question the universal and eternal approach of human rights. I also have a presentation. I should start that. Oops. Okay. And I also have a handout. I think then it's easier to follow. Can you maybe spread? Great. So let's get started. I already said that I will try to analyze a certain aspect of human rights history according to images, precisely images of the French Revolution. And I named this lecture also Founding Myth of Human Rights Iconography, because I want to start with a very iconic painting of the Human Rights Declaration. You all know the Déclaration des droits de l'homme et du citoyen, and one of the first artists who tried to visualize this legal act was Jean-Jacques François Le Barbier. He did that already in 1789, and actually I tried to analyze that painting during a university course, and at first I just asked myself, yeah, how much revolutionary art is in this painting, or to which extent is it in the tradition of the Ancien Régime. But then, after I did some research, I realized that it has certain reasons why this painting is so iconic. And among those reasons was that I found various modifications. So just during 1789 to 1798, I found over 30 modifications of that painting. So not identical copies, but all the time something changed. And I just gave here an overview, but there are more to see and to come. And of course, then I asked myself different questions. And at first, I wanted to intensify that research, and I just wanted to give you a glimpse which databases I used. I have to tell I could not have really conducted that research if the internet wouldn't exist, because it was a lot of research which was already digitalized. So in this aspect, digitalization in humanities was really helpful, because if I would have to travel to Paris or to Amsterdam, then I could not have traveled to Lisbon to hold this lecture now. Good. I I realized there are a multitude of sources, especially pamphlets. So at first we saw a painting of Jean-Jacques François Le Barbier, a French artist, but the vast majority of all these sources are pamphlets, so leaflets which spread all over France and also other regions of Europe. All of them were highly symbolic, so they had a really symbolic language, and I could really see the cultural transfer of revolutionary art and symbolism. Therefore, I changed my research questions, and I wanted to see, is that cultural transfer, which I perceived during my research, a sign of universality and eternity in human rights symbolism, or does it tell us a different story? And that was actually also my main research question for the creation of that lecture here. Just a word again to the type of sources I analyzed. Like I said, there were a lot of leaflets and pamphlets which were digitalized by national libraries, and the up-to-date research in this field actually agrees that these pamphlets and leaflets are the most important source for communication and art in the revolutionary times. And all of these artists and engravers are also aware of the political impact they have on society. These are two German researchers, Reichert and Kohle. They also claim that the revolutionary art is kind of a hybrid art, because at one point it takes new revolutionary symbols into the depictions of happenings. On the other hand, it always refers back to the tradition of Christianity and also to the ancient tradition, and they call it hybrid art. Okay, then I would say I gave enough context of my research, and I want to start the interpretation of the prime source. So that's the original painting of Jean-Jacques François Le Barbier. He was a French painter. He was really an educated painter, so he was supposed to be a painter, and he was also a member of the Académie des Royales. He was, let's say it like that, he was a member of the Academy of Arts, of the Royal Academy of Arts, so he was a mainstream painter before the Revolution, before the French Revolution, and you can see he also portrayed Louis XVI or Maria Antoinette, and he was really just a very well-known but not special artist in pre-revolution Paris. And in the beginning of the revolution, he was still assigned with some paintings by the National Assembly, so he was not completely dismissed after 1789, although he was, like I said, actually belonging to the sphere of the royal arts. And he painted this picture in 1789, and here you can see some symbols I want to attract attention for. On the one hand, you have the traditional, the revolutionary symbols, especially the bonnet de la liberté, the Phrygian cap. It appears on almost every revolutionary depiction of that time. If I go back, you can see it here above the spear. The spear separates the text of the Declaration of the Human Rights, and you can also see the fasces, like it is also a revolutionary symbol. Both are in this tradition. On the other hand, you can see two allegories, like on the left side you see Francia. It is like a normal depiction of France. very interesting in this case is that Francia still wears a crown and also a coat with lilies, so it is still in a monarchic tradition. On the other side, you can see the law, la loi, which points at the être suprême. And the être suprême here kind of substitutes God. I don't have that more clearly, but I hope you can see it. Normally, the Almighty I was a symbol for God. It was already in the Egypt area, in the Egypt time, a symbol of hierarchy, a symbol of highness. Christian tradition tried to transfer it into the eye of God, and now, during the Enlightenment, some philosophers, but also some artists, tried to use it for their purposes, and they transformed it into the eye of the être suprême, which is basically the symbol of the culte de la raison, so the cult of reason, which emerged in the revolutionary times. When I can conclude on the interpretation of that painting, on the one hand, you can really see that it is an image of compromise, because you have especially the allegory of France, of Francia, who still legitimates France, so who still legitimates the French king. It is wearing a crown, it is wearing the coat with lilies. On the other hand, you have revolutionary symbols like the bonnet de la liberté or the fasces. And what is for me most important is that you can also see some symbols of eternity and universality, at least in my interpretation. If I go back here, the central depiction of the image are stone tablets. And of course, if you think of stone tablets, you are immediately reminded of the Ten Commandments, which clearly have a Christian but also kind of a universal approach. And if you look more precisely, you can also see above the bonnet de la liberté, there is a snake which bites itself in its tail, which is also just a sign for eternity. And in all the modifications I found, these stone tablets and this approach of universality was transferred. So this was always something you could find. All the other elements may be changed, but the stone tablets and this fundamental approach, I would say, you could always find in the other depictions. And that is actually the thing I wanted then to examine, if main other aspects apart from these stone tablets, apart from this approach of eternity and universality, change. Here I have further images of compromise, so only to see that in 1789, not everything changed from the one moment to the other moment. So the monarch was at first still part of the game, but later he was just ignored. And now I want to talk about the spread and the reception of all these modifications I was mentioning before. At first I was concentrating on France, so already in 1791 I found a depiction of a declaration. In 1791 there was the new constitution established. There was not a new declaration, it is still the same text, but as you can see, the symbols of kingdom, they just disappeared. Sorry. You can see a Francia, so an allegory of France, who is very aggressive. I don't know if you can see that well, but she is bearing arms, and yeah, she's very robust and determined, and the signs of kingdom, they just vanished. If you go further to 1793, you have actually the completely same depiction of Le Barbier's painting. It's a print, of course, but the only thing which changed is, yeah, the allegory of France. So there is no crown anymore, there is no coat with lilies anymore, and in this case the text also changed because there was a new declaration in 1793, but basically the whole pictorial language stayed the same except for this fact. Here you have another example where there is no sign of a king anymore. And you can see on the right side the allegory of the Republic, of the French Republic. But like I said, she's not wearing a crown or anything else. And you can only see again this approach of eternity. You have the stone tablets, and now you have even the snake, which is biting its tail. You have it in the middle of the painting, or copy in this case. The same counts for these two declarations, also from 1793. On the one hand, on the left side, you have a depiction with Hercules, who is in the middle of the painting, and the text says something like, yeah, if we are united, not even Hercules could harm us. The Hercules symbolism was very popular back then, and in this case it was even stretched to the extent that not even the very powerful Hercules could harm the French Republic in this case. And on the right side you see that other people are now idealized. In this case, there are two martyrs. On the one hand, we have Jean-Paul Marat, and then on the other hand, Pelletier, who both died in 1793, and they are part of the depiction now. A similar case is in 1795. I guess you already notice one of the men you can see here. So on the right side you have Napoleon, on the left side Paul Bras, and in this case they already named the declaration Déclaration des droits et des devoirs de l'homme et du citoyen. This is part of the constitution during this time. So in 1795 it was part of the constitution, and it was the preamble of the constitution, so to say. And what I wanted to show with all these depictions is that the general composition of all this leaflets and pamphlets and paintings, they stay the same, but actually the political situation always changes, and then the symbolism of details alters or just expires. And I also tried to do some research in other countries. Especially interesting was the Batavian Republic, a sister republic since 1795. And you can also see here the depictions of the original of Jean-Jacques François Le Barbier. So the composition is still the same, but in the Netherlands, in the Batavian Republic, you can see that God is holding a central position. So before we had always the Etre Supreme. It was a secularized symbol, and now God is coming back to the stage, and he's actually the one the human rights are based on. So the declaration, it is called the Rechten van de Mensch and van de Bürger. They really state that the whole enlightenment is based on God, and that all the rights you can find here in this declaration are also based on God. You can see it in the inscription beneath the painting, or beneath the leaflet, and in the middle you can see an allegory of the Enlightenment, and even the allegory of Enlightenment is influenced by God. So we have, in my opinion, a whole different situation compared to the Etre Supreme in France. And you can also find that in other depictions of the Batavian Republic. Here I have a leaflet with the name Allegorie op de Rechten van de Mens, which basically also has a Christian background. You cannot see it very well, but behind the liberty, which is in the center of the depiction, you can also find the the allegory of service of God. It's a very strange allegory, but they really tried to depict the worshipping for God into an allegory, and you can really perceive that, and it's just very interesting to see. Here is another depiction of the Human Rights Declaration in the Batavian Republic. This time I wanted to stress that in the Batavian Republic it was very common to refer to the keywords Freiheit, Gleichheit, Bruderschaft, which means something like liberty, Egalité, and fraternity, and I was very curious about that, because I knew that this whole keywords were not actually that popular in that time in France. So actually just Napoleon III made these keywords very popular when he wanted to historize the French Revolution and the achievements. But abroad, especially in the Batavian Republic, you can already perceive these images very well. So I don't know, there are a lot of theories about that keywords, but I wanted to show you that as well. Researchers claim that it just has to do something with the French army, that their motto was always liberty, égalité, fraternity. So the thesis is that although in France itself it was not a big issue during this time, this keyword we all know, but abroad it was very popular because the French army distributed and spread it. You can see a lot of other depictions from the Batavian Republic where this keywords of Freiheit, Gleichheit, and Bruderschaft is in the center of the depictions. One last thing I wanted to show you is a depiction in the Helvetian Republic. This is really hard to interpret because we don't know anything about the creator, and we don't know a lot about the symbolism as well. There is no inscription or whatever, so it is part of guessing sometimes, but you can see here is again the Hercules symbol. So normally it stands for the power of a nation or the power of a people, and it kind of refers to the sovereignty of people. So you can find this, and you can also find the decay of the monarchic and absolutist system. You can even see a dog who is making his business on the absolutist idols. Another last depiction is also something I found in England, and they kind of tried to make a caricature out of the Déclaration des Droits. So you cannot read it, but it's very funny what they have understood under the rights of the l'homme et des citoyens. So, for example, the right to plunder is one of the things which stands here, and you have to know the exact context. This is an opposition leader which was supporting the French Revolution back then, which was not supported by the other English politicians back then. Yeah, my conclusio, I found a lot of common traditions in all the depictions, in all the paintings, in all the prints I analyzed. So we found collective allegories, for example. On the other hand, you can clearly see regional and temporal differences. I think the most striking one was the Être Suprême and God. On the one hand in the French Republic, on the other hand in the Batavian Republic, because it really goes to the fundaments of natural law and of human rights, from where I derive the power of law, the validity of law. And therefore, I would say that there is a certain realpolitik perspective. It's, you can translate it with real politics perspective, that the pictorial language of all those depictions actually always reflect the concrete political situation, and that this universality approach, this approach of eternity, is somehow just a method to legitimate politics back then. Yeah. Thank you for your attention. That's also, I guess, a contented new depiction. I found it when I was doing some research for the Universal Declaration of the United Nations. So maybe somebody has to deconstruct that as well once. Yeah, thank you.
Sr. Professor, agradeço-lhe a excelente abordagem que fez e o convite para nos mostrar e explicar também. I will translate it later to you. A explicação iconográfica mostrando-nos imagens que ao longo do tempo nós fomos conhecendo e agora podemos analisá-las e compreendê-las de uma outra forma. De qualquer modo, gostaria ainda de salientar que a iconografia, dentro de toda a complexidade que nós lhe reconhecemos, é sempre um mundo que nos deixa encantados, mas ao mesmo tempo temerosos pela dificuldade em compreender cada um dos símbolos, cada uma das alegorias que estão ali representadas. De qualquer modo, mais uma vez, muito obrigada.